My mother, she's just awful. She's been wishing death upon my grandmother for 7 years, 8 years, and they haven't talked in the whole time. And at the funeral, I did a eulogy and everything for my grandmother. I read it, and then she wasn't at the funeral, but she was waiting for us at the graveyard, and everybody knew she hated her. And when we put the casket down, she walks up to it, taps it tight twice with a smile on her face, as to say like "fuck you, I'm glad you're gone." Just a rotten person, and she's just been in and out of my life forever. And I don't know, about 6 7 months ago is when I finally said I'm done trying, because I'm just too soft.
Tough childhood.
Oh, that's nothing. I mean, even in my adulthood, my ex-wife.
Well, here, let's just start at the beginning
Okay,
here.
all right,
So
yeah.
you grew up where?
New Haven, Connecticut.
And
Oh, well, I was born in Yale New Haven Hospital, but I grew up like all over. After I was born, we were living in East Haven for a little bit, Connecticut, and then we moved to North Haven, Connecticut, and that's where I was until I was about 13, 14.
your parents, Mike, they were.
Awful. They were, like my dad beat me every day, most of the time, most days. Mother allowed it, beat her too.
And this went on for how long?
Well, my mom woke us up one day. I was about 13, and he went to work early because he was a garbage man. So he left at like maybe 1, 2, 3, something like that. And I still remember laying in bed, and I knew when the lights from his truck, were on the wall. When he would back out, I would see the lights go, and then I would hear the motor like fade away, and I knew like I was safe. I knew he was like gone, and I could like breathe and go to sleep. And so he was, I guess, before, either right when I was born or right after I was born, he got arrested because he used to drive a milk truck or something, and he tried luring a couple girls, like younger girls, into his milk truck, and he got arrested. And why my mother stayed with him is beyond me. I mean, after everything he did to us, I don't know why she stayed with him. Um, and he one time I was in the shower, and he used to ride a motorcycle, and I was in the shower, and he came in while I was showering, and all his friends were over, from his motorcycle friends were over, and he pulled me out of the shower and thought it'd be funny to throw me in front of everybody naked, a kid. And I still remember the look on their faces, like, what the hell is going on? And I ran back into the bathroom, and he was just like, ho, 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 like he thought it was a joke.
That's your dad.
That's my dad. If he's even, I have no clue. If he's even my dad, I don't know.
You stayed home until when?
So my mom woke us up at like early in the morning, and she said, get up, we're leaving. We're getting away from him. I said, okay. And a buddy of mine and his dad, she had talked to them. It was a kid friend of mine that I hung out with, and she asked his dad, and he came over and drove a truck, and we moved everything out, and we moved to North Branford, and she ended up taking him back again, but he was like cheating on her, finding condoms. She was finding condoms, and then one night, like I remember, he said he was on the computer. It's like right around when American Online came out, and he was on the computer. I don't know if it was when it came out, but it was like kind of new. And he was on the computer, and he just gets up and goes, "I'm going to a Yankees game." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Can I go?" And he's like, "Absolutely not. No, blah blah blah." And I never understood why. Obviously, when I grew up and I thought about that, I figured it out that he was probably going to cheat on her. But they ended it pretty quickly again after that. And then she met another guy, and then I was out the door because me and that guy didn't get along. So I've been living on all my friends' couches. I've been on my own since I was 14. Um, you know, one time with my father, he burned my Christmas presents because I was bad. I had a tooth missing. If you look at like pictures of me when I was a kid, I'm always missing one tooth. First, it was because of hockey. Then they put it back in. Emergency. I remember I had to go late at night. They put it in. And one day I had my socks down, and he yelled at me to pull them up. I said no. So he smashed my face into the garage floor, and that tooth came out again. Uh, he One time he told us that he had killed our cats. We had 4 cats. And they were gone one day, and he told us all that he killed them. So I don't know how long went by, but a little bit of time went by, and he my brother noticed it. We were pulling out and we had a trailer on our property, like a pull along trailer. And my brother noticed one of the cats sticking their head out, like up through the window. So he went through the window to open the door so we can get the cats out. So he was just lying to us the whole time just to mentally fuck with us. That's just who he was. And he, eventually they split. He moved down to Florida, and my, like I said, I'm a softie. He called me one day. I used to work at a bowling alley on the machines, and he found out I worked there somehow. So he calls me one day, and he says, "I'm doing good. I've changed. Blah blah blah." Softy. I said, "Okay." He's like, "I want to come up and see you for your birthday." I said, "Okay." So he came up. He came to the bowling alley where I was working at. We talked. He seemed okay. He gave me some money for my birthday. I can't remember how much, but he gave me a little bit of money for my birthday. And that was that. He went down. He told me he wanted me to move down there with him. I said, "I'll think about it." And I was on probation. After my mom kicked me out, I was on probation because I was getting into a lot of trouble all the time. Already into drugs, smoking crack when I was 16, heroin at 18, 17, 18, something like that. Anything I can get my fucking hands on, honestly. But crack and heroin were pretty bad. And so I went to my mom's house because I had to do my probation piss test at her house. And it was court ordered. So I walked in and she's on the phone laughing. And I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" She's like, "Oh, just talking to your father's girlfriend." I'm like, "From Florida?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, they got into a fight and he broke a bunch of her ribs and burned all her clothes on the front lawn." I'm like, "What the fuck, man?" So a little bit of time went by. He called me at my work. As soon as I heard his voice, he's like, "Michael." And I'm like, "Why the fuck are you calling me?" And he's like, "Oh, they're all lying, Michael. They're all lying, Michael." I'm like, "They're always fucking lying, Dad. They're always lying, huh?" So my last words to him were, "I hope you fucking die." And then he died. He was on his motorcycle and he crashed into a Jersey barrier and he was a vegetable. And I remember my mother told me that me, my mother, and my brother had to sign something to pull the plug. And I didn't want to sign it. I told my mother, "Fuck him, let him rot. I don't care. He tortured me my whole life." So then she said, "Michael," now this is when I was fucked up on heroin. She says, "Michael, if you sign this, you're getting $20,000. I said, "Give me the pen." So I signed it. So I got the $20,000 and I fucked that up so bad. I blew it all and I kick myself in the ass for it every single day. I wish I had had it now, obviously, but I fucked that all up, just like everything else I had done in my life. But he, I would be at I lived on all my friends' couches, so I'd be like at their house, and like I'd be with them for like holidays or for whatever, and I'm like, I'd have a good time because there's pros to being a kid that young on your own. Like you get to party your ass off and nobody fucking stop you. So that's a pro. But the cons were, you're sitting there with all these families because I lived with a lot of people and it's not your family. You're there, you're having fun, but you're like still in my head like, fuck, this sucks. Like I don't have my own family to do this with. They're like I can't go. Even still to this day, I'm 41, I can't go sit down, and I have never been able to go sit down with like my dad or my mom and like figure out a problem or look for advice. It was always my friends' parents. Those were my parents.
Do you feel like the childhood that you went through impacts you still today?
It taught me how not to be, because I have a daughter and I would do anything for her, and I have done a lot for her.
It seems like your personality might be like almost a reaction to your dad's.
Yeah, totally, without a doubt. A lot of people like follow in those footsteps, but I hated it. I don't know. The reason I think I haven't is because I hated it so much through the whole time of going through it that I just knew it was wrong the whole time, And with my daughter, I'll do anything for her. I'll protect her until the day I die. And I've been clean, years now. 5, 6 years, something like that. But, it took me a while to get to that because even I fucked up with my daughter, you know what I mean? I never lost her with custody or anything like that, but I was doing drugs while I had her. I fucked up. I fucked up big time. don't really tell too many people this, but I fucking overdosed, and she was there in the house. Luckily, nothing happened because of it, because everybody else in the house was sober. But I fucked up, and that was the biggest fuck up of my life. And I still, to this day, I mean, I'll always have to cope with that, but I use that as like my staying clean fuel, I guess. Like, I don't want to go through that ever again. Luckily, she was so young that she's not going to remember it, but I will. And, you know, I had to tell her recently that, you know, it happened because me and my ex-wife get along really good now. We're good co-parents together now, but we had a lot of shit go on, and I was lied to for a year because she was going out with somebody, and I had found out that he was on the sex offender registry. So I immediately went to the courthouse and filed for an emergency order, and it took me 3 years and 2 trials to keep him away. But it's all behind us now, so I try to forget about it, and she's doing what she's supposed to do. She's a good mom. She takes care of her kid. She loves her very much, and my daughter loves her mom very much, and that's what it's about. You know, I try to like make sure that my kid is happy, and I'm not going to have her have a resentment on me because I took her mom away or something like that. You know, she's 13 now. She's 12 going on 13, and she's old enough to make that decision on her own and of who she wants to be with. And, you know, we have her 50-50, and she loves her mom. You know, there was a full year where I didn't know that this guy was on that list. And ECF called me and told me, and I immediately went and did something about it. But you know, it's about my daughter, and she wants to see her mom, and she wants to be around her mom, so I'm not going to stop that. And like I said, me and her mom are getting along really good now. And her mom's taking her when she's supposed to, and she has her actually more sometimes if I need her to take her an extra day, or she needs me to take an extra day. You know, we work it out. So things are good there. And I'm happy about that. And my daughter's happy about that. And then getting into my mother, like I said, my grandmother had just passed away a month ago, about a month ago, and my mother hated her, still hates her, always has, constantly wishing death upon her. And for her to show up at the graveyard, not the funeral, but at the graveyard, and then smile and slap that coffin twice, was just, everybody there knew she hated her. So she was trying to get a reaction out of me. That's what she was trying to do. And, you know, it didn't work. I didn't let her achieve that. I just kept my mouth shut because I knew everybody that was at that graveyard knew how she felt about her mother. So she made herself look like a complete psycho by doing that. And then she always tries to reel me back in. She called me, actually, on one of those, the second trial, it was a 2-day trial with that whole thing. And I hadn't talked to her for a while because my brother was getting married. And my brother, we haven't lived together since I was 14 years old. You know, he don't give a shit about me. He don't care about his niece at all. He does, you know. So he got married, and he, I'm sure because I'm his brother and that's the only reason, asked me to go. So I said, okay, maybe this is the start of us having a relationship or something. So I went and got fitted for my tux, and my daughter was like, why do I have to go to this? And I'm like, he's your uncle. She's like, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't call me. He doesn't do anything for me. And I'm like, you make a good point. So I called my brother, and I was like, listen, like, the fact that I even had to do this is ridiculous. But I called him. I was like, do you think you can, like, call Ray here and there and, like, try to get to know her a little bit? Like, I want her to go to your, you know, your wedding. I'd really like her to go. He said, okay. And he never did. So I waited weeks, and he never did. So I got to the point, and I'm like, I'm not going. Forget it. I'm not going. And I don't blame my kid for not wanting to go either. So I canceled my tux because I went and got fitted for it and everything. I canceled it. My mom, you know, flipped out on me. And then the second day of the trial, I hadn't talked to her for a while, and I was saying to my girlfriend, I'm like, she ain't gonna call me to see how things are going. And pretty much right when I said that, the phone rang and it was her. And I'm like, wow. So I pick it up. I'm like, hello. She's like, so what's going on? And I'm like, oh, this. They said this. The judge said that. She's like, oh, Michael, that's getting old. Are you going to the wedding or not? I'm like, that's it. I'm like, don't even bother calling me again. I'm like, I'm done with you. That's it. Choice words. And then she, about a month after that, calls me, and she's giving me a sob story that she has cancer. And I pretty much told her I don't fucking care. I said, I'm sorry you have cancer. Wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but I'm done letting you pull your bullshit on me. You're not reeling me in like this again. You've left me for men when I was 14, going in and out of juvie, getting hooked on all kinds of drugs, getting arrested. I mean, it was just, my life was a complete shit show.
Do you wish your childhood was a white picket fence, perfect family one? Or do you feel like what you went through has made you a better person?
I guess I mean, it sucks, but what happened and everything, but I still struggle because of it. Like I live paycheck to paycheck, so some ways I do and some ways I don't. I wish I had like that childhood so I could have I had to emancipate myself when I was 16 years old to stop the courts from fucking with me, because the great state of Connecticut court system kept sending me to my father, who was beating me, and then I would go to I would go get locked up overnight, go to Long Lane, and he would get off scot-free, beat the shit out of me, and nothing would ever happen to him. And they kept sending me to him, and then he would get sick of me and drive me to my mother's house, and then she would get sick of me, and they would both call on me and say I ran away while they were physically bringing me back and forth, and I'm getting arrested out of my school in front of everybody. And I had to go get emancipated to stop the courts from fucking with me. And my grandmother actually took me to do it. And so that's like, it's just one thing after the next where I try to like get ahead, and I don't. I mean, my grandmother told me forever that she had money for me in her will, and a family member, I'm not gonna say who, but not my mother, but a family member, I'm pretty sure fucked me out of that, because I haven't heard anything, and every time she loves to control me, and she like uses things like that to control me. She has a timeshare in Cape Cod, and she pretty much uses that on me every single year because she knows that my daughter's gonna want to go. But my kid's smart now. She's like sees what's going on, and she's like, Dad. She came to me the last time and she's like, Dad, we don't have to go. She's like, I see what she's doing to you, and we don't have to go. And I was like, you're the coolest kid ever, man. And then while we were there, because I can't go, I can't afford it for the whole week. I go for like a couple days and we don't even do anything. We just swim in the pool and hang out in the room. So that family member had called me and she's like, I want to treat you to a whale watch. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I told my daughter, and she's like, oh, I'm scared to go on a boat. I'm like, okay, I'll tell her. And she's like, well, my offer is for a whale watch. So if you don't want to do that, then too bad. If you want, you can borrow $200 from me. I was like, I'm all set. I'm not taking that. Are you kidding me? I know what comes with that. So I didn't even take it. And we left the next day. So it's just constant shit from everybody in my family. Like my friends are my family. My girlfriend's family is my family. Like I'm so lucky with my girlfriend, because the bond that she has with my daughter, man, it's amazing. They're just the best of friends, and it makes me really happy.
That's great.
She's really, really good with her. But I don't want, I wish, my goal is to leave something for my daughter so she doesn't have to grow up like I did, in a sense of struggling so much. And I was hoping to do that with what happened. It sucks to say, but I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but my plan was to do something. Like I screwed it up once, I wanted a chance to do it again, and that ain't going to happen. So I think about it every day, what am I going to be able to do? And I've tried doing things.
What are you doing for work now?
I work full time. I work shipping, receiving.
How old are you now?
41.
41. Do you see any similarities in you and your dad or mom?
Sometimes.
Genetic?
Yeah.
Personality or physical or whatever?
Mm-hmm. A lot. Me and my mom butted heads so much when we were younger because we're a lot alike. And my father, it's more, I don't know, because the guy that could be my father, I look a lot like him too. When I look at pictures of sometimes I look at pictures of my father and I'm like, there's no way that somebody else is my father. He looks just like, we look alike. Then I look at the pictures of the other guy and I'm like, we look alike.
Who's the other guy?
So when my mom was married to somebody else, she met my father, divorced that guy, and got with my father. But while she was divorcing that guy, she was pregnant with me. And
Possibly.
no, she was pregnant with me while she was being but while she was being divorced from that other guy.
I see.
So my grandmother had told me that about like a couple months before she actually passed. Said he might not be your father, and I was just like, great. So I tracked the guy down. He's like well off. He's really well off. He owns a business. So that made me like not want to call him even more because I don't want the guy to think I'm like trying to get something from him. But I had to know, so I found him and I called him, and he remembered my mom and remembered everything. And he had said that while they were getting divorced, his lawyer wanted to bring up how she was pregnant with me, and he told his lawyer to leave it alone. So his words to me were, I'm not your father, not possible, and that's pretty much it. He was nice about it, and he talked to me for a little bit, about 10 minutes or so. So he took a little time to talk to me about it, but I don't know. I always wonder that now. Like ever since I got told that, is that why my father hated me so much and beat the shit out of me all the time and did everything that he did to me? Like, is that why? And nobody's telling me. The only person that probably knows is my mother, and she ain't gonna tell me. So I don't know. I'll probably never find out. And then drugs were, man, they were a big part of my life. I had nothing else to do. I was homeless for a while. I was living out of my truck because it was just easier for me. I was robbing stores. I was robbing people. I was robbing scrap yards, breaking into cars, you name it. New Haven was, I like going back here and there to visit, but I just can't be there. It's too many memories. And, smoke, like sometimes when I think about that, like starting smoking crack at 16 years old, it's like, you're so young, I mean, I know kids start earlier than that these days too, but still, like, that's young. And I did a lot of hallucinogenics too. I did anything I could get my hands on, honestly. That's why I wish things were different, because like all my stimulus checks that I got, I spent on my car. I've been driving around in a car with no heat for 3 years. I don't have any heat in that car, and it's like I came down to the catalytic converter going on it. So it came down to $1,200 of stimulus money to fix that, which needed to be fixed, or be comfortable. So I had to do that. I do as much work on my car as I can myself. I do my own brakes. I do my own oil changes. I just did some sway bar links to come up here. Wheel bearings. I do everything I can myself, everything that I can, like myself. But some stuff I can't do. Like I can't do a catalytic converter. I know it's the heater core that's wrong with the car, and I can't do that. I don't have the tools to do it, and two, I wouldn't know what I was doing in the first place. So I have a process for it though. I'll put a space heater in there and run an extension cord out in the mornings, and I'll leave it on with the car running for like 45 minutes. And I'll take that out, and I have a little plug-in lighter that I give when my daughter's with me. I'll give her that with the heater, and she like puts her blanket over herself and stays warm like that. So I have a process to do it, but that's the one thing I've always been, is like a survivor and figuring stuff out and trying to make things work. Which keeps you sharp, but I wish I didn't have to do all that. It's like I feel like no matter how hard I try, I always end up going back a peg. And it's how it is. All I know is I have to stay clean. that's number one, and that'll always be number one because I've thought about that too. Like, if I was doing drugs with everything that happens in my life, Jesus, that would be a shit show. And I just have to, I just have to stay clean and make sure that I set that example for my kid. And honestly, if my daughter wasn't in my life, I'd either be dead or in jail. There'd be one or the other. So, and that's 100%. If that kid wasn't in my life, I'd be dead or in jail. Probably dead.
Mike, what would you say is the most important thing you've learned in your life?
Be good to the people that are good to you. That's probably the most important thing. I mean, obviously there's other things, but I mean, speaking like, from the heart, like I've had a lot of people be there for me, So, and they know that I got their back no matter what. And like I said, my friends are my family. My girlfriend's family is my family. These are all people that have treated me better than my own family. I literally have nobody from my blood. So I'll always be the black sheep, and that's fine. But I guess be good to the people that are good to you. Obviously stay clean. That's like always got to be number one. Because if I don't stay clean, then I lose everything. I lose my place. I'll lose my daughter, which is the most important thing. I'll lose my job. Everything will go. So that would be the most important thing, is to just stay clean and treat the people that you love and that treat you good. Treat them good.
All right. Mike, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yep, no problem.
Wish you guys lots of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.